I'm Jerry Doyle, for those of you I've never met. Dick back here is our technical expert. And our presenters today are Mary and Mr. Call. They'll be, I should tell you a little bit of their background first. They're very active individuals. Vince doesn't, and Mary, they don't only bike. They swim, they kayak. They ski in the winter. They spend the winters in Colorado. And so if you have questions as we're going, you're welcome to ask those questions. They will repeat them so we can get them on the video because this is all being recorded today. So any other comments or anything else you'd like to know about this couple? I think you're going to find what they are presenting today rather interesting. Vince, right. Mary, it's yours.
Hi. Yeah, we've done a couple of presentations over the years for all. I think Mark worked with us on the one for Snow Mountain Ranch and what our winter is like at 8,500 feet as a volunteer.
Your mother was here?
Yeah, my mom was available to come at that time. And then I believe we did one on cycle touring Italy, I think it was a number of years ago. Yep. This trip to France sort of came out of our acquaintances and friendships with folks from New Jersey that Fran and Dennis McCain that work with us at the Y over the years. And they are very avid travelers, and they have done some cycle tours off of the barge systems and canals in Europe. And they decided last year, a year in advance, that they were very much interested and they had not done southern France. So anyways, Fran and Dennis McCain, our friends, have done a number of these trips. They're familiar with the Cycle Tours company out of Holland and Amsterdam. And so they invited us to consider coming on that barge trip. And this Cycle Tours is out of Amsterdam. There's a lot of different tour companies. This one in particular uses the small barges. These are old industrial barges that have been purchased and renovated. There's 5 of them with this company, and we happen to be on the Claire de Lune. Very small. We've never done any of the big cruises. Yeah. I don't like large crowds and not quite as active maybe on a large cruise ship. 17, we had 17 people.
Including the staff.
Yeah, they had 4 staff, the captain and head chef, and then a deckhand. And so what I wanted to do is what they do is every year Cycle Tours has 5 of their boats positioned for summer tours. This one was going to be repositioned to central France, the agricultural district south of Paris, using the ancient, I was unaware that the canal system dates very back in medieval times as a way of moving to the countryside. This Marcos was the sole owner of this Claire de Lune, the boat. He's partner with 5 other folks that own the other 4 boats. And what they do is every spring, tulip season in Holland is, I was unaware, totally international fame from the globe. People from all over go to Amsterdam for this tulip period. So they have 5 boats, and they fill all 5 boats every year, a year in advance. While we were on this trip, he offered to let us in on reservation for it for next year. And within 5 days, all 5 boats were full for next year. So what happens is at the end of the tulip season, these boats have to be positioned and repositioned for the summer season. So on the Claire de Lune, they offered this year to be part of the repositioning of the boat for the summer season. And so we signed up for a 2-week run on it. The first week was they had brought the boat down from Amsterdam to Paris, and then from Paris they needed to position the boat down in Briere, central France, because then they were going to run 20 trips from Briere to Neva back 1 week for the 20 weeks of summer. And so we signed up for the 2 weeks, and it was the captain was part of the whole trip. And each day they had to move through up to 15 different locks during the day. So we would have breakfast and be off the boat.
Pack a lunch.
Pack a lunch and take it with us. And then every day we're off the boat by 9 in the morning. And the captain had to get moving in order to get through the canal system. And the canal system sometimes is quite complicated because each canal in each district is run by canal keepers. And in France, the captain said you just have to be very patient with the French way of life. The Dutch and the Germans, I guess he's felt, were very punctual people and expected if you're going to be there and say you're going to be there, you're going to be there. Well, in France, that doesn't happen. Sometimes the canal keeper was not there in the morning and would show up late. Some of the canals he could run manually himself, and we'll take a look at some of the pictures of it. So we did the 2 weeks. We were very lucky and fortunate weather-wise. We went at the last of May, the 24th. Prior to that, they had a very wet spring, weeks and weeks of lots of rain. When we came, we had no rain for 2 weeks until the day we left and departed. And the weather, springtime was still very reasonable. Jacket weather, light clothing in the mornings.
Yeah, cooler in the morning. Yep.
And then towards the end, June 15th or June 12th, the weather started to get into the 80s. I would certainly never go to Europe in the summer. I don't know if, unless you're going to, well, they don't even air condition much. Even some of our Ubers weren't air conditioned. Our apartments were never air conditioned. And you're looking at European temperatures now in the summer in Central Europe at 100 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. I've read some articles on how climate change is also is pushing the travel industry to make big changes in travel in Central Europe. So I would just say, if you have any interest, certainly look at springtime or fall to deal with the heat. It was interesting. The tour guides, and I'll talk a little bit about those after. The tour guides on our walking tours that we did in Paris, we did over 50 miles of walking in Paris in 5 days or 4 days. Mm-hmm. But as it warms up, they carry a bottle holster of pressurized atomized water to spray to cool down and make sure that you stop in the shade.
And it seemed like such a splurge, but we ended up buying one.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
That's a personal air conditioning kind of thing. And again, we were fortunate. We got home mid-June, and within 5 days of that, Paris blew up in a lot of the
they
big
had
cities.
the gas explosion, and then
they
also
had
the riots.
They had massive riots. They have the same problems.
We would have been in the middle of it.
Yeah. Otherwise, the riots, Macron had to call in like 45,000 police officers. That's like an army. Yeah. We don't really follow much what goes on there unless you travel there, but they have similar problems that we do. The police brutality issue, the ethnic groups, and a young man was shot by the police, and the whole place blew up. And but we were fortunate that we were able to spend evenings in Paris without any real problems. So let me get started on the barge, the Claire de Lune. It was really a beautiful boat that he had put together with friends. They did all the woodwork, all of the retrofitting, the cabin plans of it. It's like if you've done any camping. These were small cabins, like in a camper, not the campers that some of our friends stay in, but maybe 1950-ish. Yeah. So double cabins, double beds, 5 twin cabins, split level. And so splits level means upper level, and then a level there with storage under, a sink, a door, bathroom, shower. The rooms were meant not to stay in, but to just go down, air conditioned, most of the time when they had power, because sometimes the boat didn't have extra power and they could only run their generators a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So,
So we made it work. We took turns, like you go and shower first or you or me. And then in the morning he'd be in bed and I'd get up and get ready. So you just kind of work things out as you go.
so the Claire de Lune, this is it. We left,
You want to have the lights off or?
Is this supposed to have audio?
it does, yeah, but that's fine. I don't see any on it, but we left on the Seine River through Paris and spent a good day or so.
That's one of the docks right there.
Yeah. So this is their promo for the cycle tours. We'll talk a little bit about the cycling. This is probably the hardest day, was getting up to the wine vineyards in Saint-Cyr. But Mary can talk a little bit about opting out for an electric bike
Oh, yeah.
instead of. So this is the downstairs. That's our room there, kind of set up.
There it is. Yeah.
Very clean.
That's your
Nothing
boat.
elaborate.
Yeah.
And then this is upstairs. They have an honor bar there where you sign the book if you're taking stuff, or bottling fees. So they do tours in Amsterdam. But the Claire de Lune this year was going to be stationed in central France. And I don't know if any of you folks have been to France. This is our first time since college days. And
They're
it's a very rural. Yeah, this is, we couldn't believe it. This is a canal over the Seine River, over the Loire. You were actually built a viaduct, and you can see the rivers are too shallow now. And this is a transport above the river. So you're actually taking a boat over the river, not on the river.
Yeah. And one of our videos will show that.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to want to go to the slides that I did now, if you want to. So Cycle Tours, and that logo, that's the name of their company. There are many other, and there's very luxury ones also that were much more.
Videos?
Hopefully. She did some music. Our daughter, Katie, I didn't mention this. She's done travel with us. She's done a lot of travel on her own in Europe. She works with the American Dental Society over in Chicago and has been there for 15 years or so, but enjoys international travel. And we've been fortunate enough that she puts up with us and has been to Scotland with us and over to Maui, staying in a Ford extended van for 10 days with mom and dad. Sort of a different kind of story.
Good for little people.
Yeah. But anyway, so she was able to do the 2 weeks. Well, really, it was 3 weeks because we spent a week in Paris after. So we did the 2 weeks. So she was able to take the time to come. She's quite the videographer. So she put together each night a bunch of the slides that she had and then put it into a brief video.
With
that she would
music.
share. Yeah.
It was really
So
done
we'll take a
well.
look
Yeah.
at some of this. So we flew in from O'Hare. You never know how international travel is going to go. It turned out to be just an amazing piece of technology for us to see this thing work without a glitch. We walked into O'Hare, walked right to the American desk right in front of the doors. I've got my big bike bag I'm hauling, and walked right to the American. They took my bike as luggage. We had free two luggage checks. So being part of the American credit card or that system. So the bike was taken. Flight left right on time at 9:30 at night, right to the minute. And we landed at Charles de Gaulle within 5 minutes of the time that they said. So it went really well. There was some glitch, and I'm not going to go into it. I tried to store my bike at the airport, and because the language didn't quite understand all that entailed, I had to go out the next day and get my bike back before they charged me $400 for delivering it to the barge, which was 10 miles away. But that's a whole nother story.
Yes.
So anyways, The trip itself, then we landed in Paris. We had a couple of days. We left a full day in between just in case there was any problems. The barge was on the Seine River right in Paris. So we were able to Uber down and locate the barge from our hotel. So as you can see, from the 2 weeks we spent was traveling into the center of France. And that area, not the mountains, no mountains at all, which a lot of folks that are not into the climbing aspect of cycling love this because it's their agricultural district. Miles and miles and hundreds of thousands of acres of wheat fields and other crops through the central valleys. And the cycle tour, obviously on the canals, have canal pass. So if a lot of the early days of the tour to start with were just on the cycle the pass, there was a great deal of tourism of Europeans riding bikes loaded with gear. But now they are so refined on electric bikes and travel that they were fully loaded with electric bikes traveling on the paths. And any of the campgrounds you went to, they had a major canopy set up with picnic tables and power posts to plug in to charge your battery system up. So it was pretty interesting. The cycle tours offered electric bikes. Mary and Katie were talked out of electric initially.
After
by
100
me.
miles, we did 100
And,
miles first.
Yeah.
And we did do some climbing. That's why we switched to those.
The bikes, I took my own. I took my own Trek Domane. The reason I did not really want to ride a basket commuter bike.
He's a bike snob.
On the bike path. You know, the upright with Toto in the front, the flower baskets and stuff. Well, I wasn't going to let anybody get a picture of that and post it in the cycle sites. So it was a bit but anyways, I'm glad I took mine. The bikes they had are fine for Holland. They're fine for sticking on a flat bike path. You'll see pictures, steel frame bikes, one pannier for your lunch and other stuff. And they tried to use them. And when they got off the bike path and you start climbing, those bikes were not really set up for climbing.
Yeah.
So they have a whole set of their electric, and the electric made all the difference for Mary.
Oh, yeah.
Especially towards the end of the trip. Started getting warmer weather and get into some climbing. So our first part of the trip was on the way down to Briere out of Paris. You can see the distances weren't all that great. The cycling was mainly through forest and tow pass for the barge area. So each one of these
Is it miles or kilometers?
kilometers. Yeah, kilometers. So
What do you mean by topaz?
well, the tow pass, all of the canals in ancient times, they told us that those that did not have money had to put their wives and children and tow the boats down the canal through the day. If you had money, you could hire a donkey at different sections of it. And if you had real money, you could have a team of horses. So, pardon?
Did you have very out?
Oh, no, we didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah. The barges, obviously, for this trip are your SAG vehicle. You don't need to take a lot with you. It was a very laid back riding. We left at 8 a.m. We were already stopping for coffee at 10.
And
We were stopping for lunch at noon. We were stopping for afternoon break at 2. And then hopefully connecting, and that was some of the snags at times, is connect with the boat at the end of the day, because the captain had to try to time making it through all the locks to be to the city or village that we were going to be at by 5 o'clock. So then from the second part of the trip was Briere, again following the canals all the way down to Neva. It's interesting. You'll see pictures. My overwhelming take of it is it was the villages are a lot like Hawks, Millersburg, Onaway. When I say that, very rural, very not big population. In fact, what's happened, and when you talk to some of the folks, and language is an issue. But thank God, technology and the younger people seem to know the Google Translate. If you're not familiar with Google Translate, it's leaps years in front of what we had to do in Italy. Google Translate actually instantly, as long as you're connected 4G or 5G or something, you can speak English, and it'll do it into French, both audio and text to them. And then they can hit back, hit back and say that in French, and it'll interpret to English. And I had a couple of experiences, one at a bike shop, because I had some bike issues I had to deal with. And the young people, when they found out that there was Americano at the bike shop, they all dropped what they were doing, got their phones out, and they were instantly to Google Translate. And I'm trying to get this bike thing done, and they're all like, oh, Chicago, yeah, Michigan. You know. And they were all looking up my bike and stuff. But so language definitely, when you get into the small, very rural. This was off the grid. This is not something that people travel. It's not a big tourist area at all.
But lots of gardens, personal flowers in their gardens, and just beautiful at night. We'd walk through the streets. Very quiet. Yeah.
So
that's our
first place. We stayed in Paris. We did Airbnb for lodging, very small unit in Paris in one of the districts. Again, no air conditioning, no screens either. And most through Paris, there's no screens and there's no air conditioning.
And no bugs.
Yeah, we didn't have any problems.
No problem.
So this is the walkway outside the main part of the boat. We were fortunate enough a few times that all of us decided it was a beautiful enough evening to eat dinner out. So we all pitched in and hauled the tables out and had dinner set up.
That's the whole group.
And Marcos decided that after he did all the woodwork and all of the great work he did on that boat, he did not want to do family style or potluck or anything. He wanted plated food. He wanted his boat to at least be able to, at that level, and have a chef at that level, that everything was a plated meal.
And had a presentation each evening. He'd come out and explain what we were going to be eating and describe the dessert. And then they would bring them out individually and set them in front of you. And the food was fabulous.
Yeah, a young chef and his wife.
Yeah, these were the tables that we sat at. And you just, each night, you know, if you wanted to sit with your same people, or a lot of times people would just sit with other people to get to know them. So it was just kind of open seating in the dining room.
The only catch Katie sort of gave him a bad score was Marcos tried initially, he said, to use French food and French services for the food for the boat for each week. He ran into many problems, he said, of not showing up for delivery for the food at the time the boat was launching, or not fulfilling the order to the complete. So Marcos, with his company up in Amsterdam, has all of his food cold box shipped down to Paris to load the food for the week, so that he could trust that he had his meals all set. So it wasn't directly French cuisine. The chef was Amsterdam. It was a lot of salmon, other kinds of fish,
roasts, fish.
Very well prepared food.
Yes.
So that's the boat.
Beautiful sunsets. We saw lots
evenings,
of them.
We had beautiful. And of course, there's my bike, propped against many French sites. And then our daughter, Katie, has put together. Do I have to turn the volume down somehow?
they're them passing us. We were on the side and they actually go down the canal and passed us on their way back. So that was always fun to catch up with them.
But a lot of the cities were almost like a movie set. There was not many people there and very few shops. They said during COVID, they lost a lot of their shops and shopkeepers to being able to reopen after a 2-year period. And they've also had a massive drain of young people to the big cities. So now what's happened is this international real estate folks are moving in and people are buying up these very bargain basement places in these medieval villages. But there's really no medical services nearby. Very limited services from some of this area.
Lots of churches, beautiful
Yeah,
church. Every town had lots. This is going through an actual lock and what they had to do.
Well, these canals are very small. They do not handle any of the larger boats. It's very specific size. A number of families have their own as a camper and have retrofitted them. They spend the summer traveling down to the Mediterranean. So there was a number of private boats.
So in a day, he would have to go through 14 of those at
That time. We didn't happen after.
And this is us just going through the towns. Never really had problems with cars of any kind.
We stopped at a few of the private castles along the way. I mean, you can overdo the castle thing in France, so they're very good about not a heck of a lot of castles. But of course, some of the story that led up to the French Revolution, when you can see how some of the folks were living in the countryside. Katie put together these each evening and then shared them with the folks on the trip. After 7 days, a number of the folks that were
There's
with.
one that's very
This is a super medieval. It's not in use anymore. There's 7 of them stepping down.
Roses everywhere. They love roses.
And this ended our first week down at Briere. And then a different crew of folks would come on to take the trip down to Neva. I was able to, after a bit, with an app that our daughter provided, that they could track me and I could track them at any time. I was able to take off and
The second week.
The road systems were just amazing
Yeah.
to take off and do a 50 or 60 mile bike ride through the countryside up there. Yeah, all the time.
Yep.
And until you had the ability, as long as you could take care of yourself, to be able to take off. And I had an app that they could follow where I was at, and at any given time I could see where they were at. So I could be 10, 15 miles above the canal system where they were, and then I could drop back down at any given time to catch back up.
There's the electric bike. Oh yeah.
And this is the famous Pont Canal. This was bombed during the war. I had been under the assumption that France did not really suffer much in the war from the German Luftwaffe, but that is not true. A lot of the southern parts of France, when the French fled south at the beginning of the war, the German Luftwaffe jumped over the top of the troops, went down to southern part of France, and began taking out all the bridges and canal systems to prevent the troops from moving south so that they could get them to surrender.
That was a typical way through the woods like that. It was just gorgeous.
Yeah, right here.
Shaded.
They had a lot of connected.
Just beautiful.
So it was hard packed gravel, paved at times, but you can see following the canal system. So it was often well shaded.
And that was a presentation at dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Gives you a quick overview of what we did each day.
But I would tell you, July and August, the heat would be pretty unmerciful for cycling. I would have to be up at 5 in the morning to ride there. A couple of mornings I got up before the crew and did a short ride at 7 in the morning for an hour. And it was just wonderful, the cool spring air. Yeah, I know
These
that's
were
80s. Yeah, the sheep were all along the river.
They were hilarious.
Bleeding through the night, you could hear them. And this is the Loire River. None of the boats run on it because it's just too shallow.
This was pretty cool. Katie caught this. Oh, it's gone already.
But there's an elaborate cycling path system all through Europe and this part of France. This system is part of that. So you can actually stay on Canal Pass and go from city to village without really getting out too far into the countryside.
So this young lady you see in the video is the cook's wife. She would be like the boat helper also. He really didn't know much about getting the boat ready or anything for each lock, but she was in charge with the captain, and she would be lowering ropes, and yeah, she was amazing. But then she would be right there in the kitchen helping at night with the dinner. One way.
Yeah, they had to. Yeah, you had to time who was going to go across.
This was when they let us go across that bridge, and they let us off. But normally we weren't on the boat during the day. There's a couple that we were with, Fran Dennis, yeah.
Well, obviously, France is famous for its baked goods, and we certainly weren't shy about visiting the different places along the way. The Briere, how do you pronounce that? The bakeries all along the way. So this is working the locks system. A lot of old castle systems that families still own in the area. So the more mountainous region obviously is further west in France, and then of course the coastline further off to the east. So it's quite a diverse country in regards to being for travel between ocean and mountain and high plateau agricultural. We would stop at some of these old villas for lunch. They'd give us permission to sit on the lawn.
It's actually a moat on that one.
Yeah, that was
There's our leader, our infamous leader. That was our lunch spot there. Mm-hmm. We just packed lunches and relaxed in the shade.
up in the wine country in San Cyr, about one of the higher points above the river.
I did have other tops, so it seems like every time there's a picture, man, that thing.
Well, you had to pack light. We had to pack light because we were doing laundry in the shower, and then
I did have other shirts.
yeah, clothing is quite light. So you do your laundry and then dry stuff out.
Yeah.
Because if you're on a small barge like this for 2 weeks.
Yeah, they did offer laundry services, but it wasn't a big deal.
And there was bike pass signage everywhere, off and on the bike path, the tow pass. So you could get one of their cycle maps and actually on your own bike the stuff from camp spot to camp. Or this cycle tour even offers, if you don't want to do the boat thing, they'll move your stuff each day to another hotel. And you just show up at the hotel each day and they give you a map or direction. It's pretty hard to get lost if you're going to be on the canal system itself.
System?
No, they own the bikes. Cycle Tour owns the bike. Yep, and they carry extra bikes on the electric bike. Yeah, I had to because of
His own.
my own
Yeah.
doing.
It wasn't their bike.
Yeah, it was my bike, and I had disassembled it and reassembled it, but I had some reassemble glitches that I didn't recognize.
Yeah, there were people that had trouble with their bikes, but they had enough of them because they were, heading for the whole summer. So they had the entire supply of their bike. So that's why we were able to get an electric bike, because normally you would have to sign up ahead of it. But yeah, if they had a problem, they just switch it out, give you another one.
The problem with the electric bike for the guide was he didn't have one, and those with electric bikes, there's just no way you can have a guide and electric bikes because the guide couldn't keep up with everybody on that. So this is some shots around Montmartre and Paris when we went back.
Eiffel Tower.
Eiffel Tower in the distance.
There it is. And I
Good luck
gotta tell
walking.
you, I was disappointed in the height of it. I thought it was going to be a lot bigger. I don't know. I just did.
So we
But
did
it's beautiful.
we did the walk at night over to it, and they lighted up at 11 o'clock
Yeah.
at night.
It does this. Wait,
Oh yeah,
this is the exact thing that it does. The
Yeah.
whole Eiffel Tower for what, 15 minutes,
yeah,
I think?
15 minutes at 11.
And you could buy these from anywhere from €2 to €20, it depending on where you picked it up at.
Yeah, they had a lot of hucksters also.
Yes, yes.
So Paris, the only regret I have is Sunday morning, I woke up, there wasn't a soul anywhere on the streets, and I had already bagged and put my bike up. And I so much wanted to just take off and start riding up and down the boulevards for an hour or two before the city came to life. But anybody who was an early riser on these trips, the villages along the canals, there is nobody at 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning out. So Paris is same with Chicago. I mean, on a Sunday morning, if you get up at 6 in the morning, you've got the place to yourself for 3 hours practically.
Mhm.
And this is one of the other villages, one of the bombed out churches. One of the churches, the last church that we went to down in Neva, they were still actively in rebuilding the cathedral from World War II. Not only did the Axis powers bomb the crap out of southern France, but the RAF also, because obviously the Germans occupied, when it came to chasing the Germans down and cutting them off, also fleeing south, they had to bomb rail stations and other facilities to stop the transport of troops and equipment. But in Nevada, the train station and the cathedral are only, mile apart.
Yep.
And the RAF dropped two 500-pound or two bombs, made it right through the roof of the cathedral. And they're still in the process. It was sort of disappointing. They had pictures before of what all the stained glass windows, of course, Europe's famous for them. Well, in this cathedral, they went to modern pop art windows with different kinds of plates of solid colors doing different things, and didn't quite come off quite as well as a medieval. We also got into an area that's very heavy in limestone and rock climbing. This is Elephant Rock. There is a forested area with a lot of limestone protruding, and big area for climbers. So there's gives a picture of the bikes. The electric bikes are in the back. The non-electric is right up front there, the blue one. And this is taking a break in the shade along one of the paths as we were working our way to the next village. One of the things in Paris, and they're getting ready for next year's Olympics, would not recommend going to Paris for the Olympics. The people there are just stunned that they're going to try to run the Olympics there. The traffic and the crowds as is with tourism now, and then they're talking about adding hundreds of thousands of more people. They're talking about actually closing central Paris down for any transport other than public transport.
How long did it take us to get out of Paris?
It took us to get to the Charles de Gaulle because our flight was going to be a midday flight.
Yeah.
It took us about 2 hours to get out of city center from our place to be on the expressway.
Yeah.
And it only took us 45 minutes to come in.
Yep. Yeah. Well, depending on what kind of Uber driver you had too.
Oh, that's another story.
Whoa.
So anyway, a lot of pastries.
The slowest one ever was that one on the way out. It's like, come on. And there was another one that actually got into a verbal fight with somebody and just like
swearing.
Not appropriate.
He was in road rage.
Yeah.
Katie said,
in our car.
You don't tip them on Uber when they do.
No.
So anyways, you can see the city of Paris, sprawling districts. Napoleon was a major player in all of the changes in architectural design of this city, mowing down many cathedrals and other buildings in order to get his spire of
wide boulevards
to move troops from one side of the city to the other side.
Yeah.
And it was the city of all white. He wanted it all white. And what's happened, obviously, over the centuries is the carbon buildup, is everything's black and gray. So now, in order to get ready for the Olympics in the main proper of the city, they're covering some of the buildings and starting the sandblasting operation to clean them. So this is up at the Montmartre area, the highest point above Paris. And included in it, what we did, Katie suggested she's done on trips to Florence. We should do some walking tours, and I can talk about that in a minute. But we also, on top of it, have dinner with a Parisian. So we actually pay through Airbnb system. And we had dinner with 3 other Americans with a
local
Parisian
lady
at her apartment. And spoke very good English. Thank you. She did. And we were able to converse. And I was sort of surprised. She said, tomorrow we're going up to Normandy for the afternoon. Folks actually take the train. It's that close enough that they can shoot up to Normandy for the day in the morning and then come back in the evening.
Yeah. And
the North Coast.
The meal was just great. She just visited very nicely at first and, just real relaxed and got to know everybody, where they were from. And then she went into the dinner and, she had flowers there and it was just so relaxing. And she just loves doing it. She does it all the time. She just loves, taking the time to meet people that way. And
So some of the flora, fauna issues, Napoleon loved the sycamore trees. And we were in Italy on our first trip years back. And I can't remember the name of the lake we were at. the boulevards were lined with sycamores, and they had a historical marker. The Napoleon troops, he had ordered to plant all the sycamores. And so all through Paris and through the countryside, massive sycamore trees. There's up at Montmartre, Sacre-Cœur.
Mhm.
Some of the canals.
Another
some different
sunset.
evenings,
Yeah.
more.
Baked goods.
Yeah.
Always had stuff.
That was
our
Katie's
10
first
o'clock
goal. She
stop.
said, I have to have a croissant each
A
morning.
chocolate croissant every day. There it is, all lit up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Streets in Paris.
I think you have a picture of when we went to dinner with the lady, don't you?
So some of
This-
the sort of plazas in Paris that are connecting buildings to other buildings with these
Mhm.
walkways.
Very expensive places, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting on the walking tours, we talk, some of these very large buildings were actually castles within town, within Paris, and families that were the very high end owned these whole corner blocks. And some of the doors were so they could take the carriage and the horses into the courtyard.
Mhm.
And you could every now and peek inside and see a massive courtyard yet. And this is up on the Arc de Triomphe. Some of the different battle scenes. And of course, good coffee,
Mhm.
good food. The very ancient medievals. We
That
always
was
had-
on the boat.
Yeah.
That was
always-
one of his desserts he presented.
Evenings. Getting the boat set. All right, I think that's it.
That was another dessert. Yeah,
That's
you
my
might have the
boat.
one.
This was good food.
Very good.
Oh, it was.
The one thing the French don't do, and that to our detriment, we do, the portions are much smaller, very high quality food. But you're not going to fill up with large amounts of pastas and burgers and French fries. And
Let's see if you had that. picture.
here's some
Oh, there you
salmon.
go. That was how they presented it. Isn't that amazing?
Plated.
Look at that.
Yeah. I mean, we're used to American style at home. You slap the stuff on the plate, but
But he
there was a whole presentation.
had presentation every night,
Yeah.
every morning too. He would lay just the best breakfast out for us.
What time would you start in the morning, Blake?
9
Breakfast was at 9.
or 8. Was breakfast 8? And then
No,
we
it's
were off
9.
the boat.
Oh, 8. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, and then
yeah.
gone at 9. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. They had, of course,
and those are poppies,
the
right?
fields of poppies
Yeah.
all along there. And of course, the mosaics and windows throughout. As you can see, this is like in Paris where you have that much food available. It's just sitting out the back of the barge.
In the evening.
Yeah. I don't know who I got. This is the, if I can get the sound on it.
I hope.
No, I don't have the sound going.
Can you turn the sound up?
On this one, I don't
Yeah.
know if it'll work.
It's coming through.
Is it?
Turn it up. Keep going.
Yeah, that's good.
That guy was hilarious.
We heard this
That
like
guy was
a
hilarious.
mile away on the boat, and we had to track down what that sound was.
Yeah.
We walked across the bridge and down there where the next day when we went by, they were all gone.
Yep.
Joan of Arc, of course, a major character, and all of them. There's a rock climbing area again, Elephant Rock. Some of the canals that aren't used anymore, the main canal, and this one was one that is not, next to the pond. Thought their sign was quite appropriate. No dog shitting around this. This canal is one of the most ancient that actually had 7 steps up and over, not in use anymore, of course.
But that's where the people would have to pull it through.
Right. Mhm.
They'd have to pull it through themselves.
Some of the private castles that are still maintained by the family. Always had big gardens, massive
Mhm.
gardens around these places.
And your biking would take you by these.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes, he would have it on his agenda to stop. But a lot
Right.
of times we went by a lot of castles. What? Wait, what about that one? But he had an agenda he had to keep. So
So they do have their whole travel map system along there that shows the different canal route all the way down to the Mediterranean. We went through the Fontainebleau region, and they're all different regions that are labeled for this. A lot of the canals would just go right through the neighborhoods. All right, that's
a dessert with strawberry, like a strawberry tart. You don't have the one when we went to dinner, huh?
no, I don't think so.
Okay.
So that's the trip. We took the train from Navarre back up to Paris. It was very direct. The folks on the boat shuttled us across the river back to the train station. 2 hour and a half, 2 hour train ride back up to Paris. And then from there, we caught a cab back up to our apartment. We rented a different apartment in Paris in an ancient medieval building that was being retrofitted to modern times. So our apartment was quite small. You could see all the conduit for hooking up electric. The village square cathedral was right next to us. So
Yeah.
when we opened the large windows to let air in, the Angelas or the 15-minute bell before mass
Wow.
would ring in the whole building. There is no way you were going to sleep past mass.
No.
So we went down and full Catholic mass in French, of course. And the church was just packed. The pipe organ was amazing, and a full choral group upstairs singing. So,
Mhm.
and a very ancient cathedral. And these were spotted all through different sections of Paris, but a lot of them were removed when Napoleon did the full redesign of that city and got rid of the big slum areas and wanted to have a specific design set up. So we did the walking tours. We signed up for Benjamin Franklin, the American Revolution, which was pretty humorous. The guy that did the tours was very knowledgeable, very animated, and walked us on usually a 5 or 6 mile circuit to different locations that Benjamin Franklin and others had spent time working to figure out a plan to help the Americans defeat the English. And that's a whole story in itself. That'd be worth a trip in itself. And then we did another walking tour was the partisan movement, World War II. And that was not the most uplifting kind of tour to do, but it was the facts of what occurred in France at that time when the occupation.
Is that when we
And,
saw the cannonball in the
yeah,
wall?
the bullet
He still
holes in
had
the
one in
building,
the
and he
wall.
would-
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, the French Revolution and Napoleon. If you're not aware, we just saw on the movie
Yeah.
theater the other night when we were that big blockbuster movie, Napoleon, is going to be out next year.
Yeah.
They've been filming it for 5 years.
Yeah.
And I just came away wanting to know more about him and about the whole history of him. And had a cursory knowledge of Napoleon, but not the in-depth stuff that they were talking about. He focused a lot about his love affair with Josephine and the letters between him and Josephine. And very interesting.
Yeah. And Katie and I passed on that one and we went shopping.
Yeah, the ladies wanted to
Yeah.
go to the stores. I
Yeah.
had no interest in seeing
Yeah.
one shop
Yeah.
in Paris.
Yeah.
I just,
But we
I
had,
did fly all the way to Europe to do
Yeah.
a shopping trip kind
Yeah.
of thing. So,
that's part of it for us, dear.
yeah, yeah. So I did an extra tour and I would have done another. Very interesting.
Did you see the reconstruction of Notre Dame?
No, we didn't go up there. That was one of the options that we could have went up to look at the reconstruction project, and that's
What was the question, dear?
the question was, did we get up to the reconstruction project that's going on at Notre Dame since the fire about 4 or 5 years ago? Yeah, that was a sad story. That they're long time project, I'm sure, in the rebuilding of that. But next year, it'll be interesting to see how the Olympics is pulled off. I would
All the
not-
locals, the lady that we went to dinner with talked about it.
Yeah,
She said locals will not be here next year. So
the
we are
Uber
leaving.
driver said, "I'm
We are
out of here."
leaving. Yeah,
He said, "I don't know who thought this up, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to be around."
no,
So
No.
yeah,
How did the French people treat you when you were in shops and restaurants?
they,
Yeah.
yeah,
we
very
never had
nice.
that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Katie wanted to get a really nice perfume. So she actually got online and located the shop lady, and she came down and met us down at her shop. Yeah, that was really nice of her. And she spoke English and, she showed us everything. But Katie did end up buying something, but the scent was a little too heavy for me. She had like 10 of them, but I don't like any of them. I just, it's good. But she ended up buying something, but she was very nice to come down, and she must have been near the area. So, yeah.
one of the shops we went in to buy, one of the fruit shops, vegetable shops, whatever. I went in and they didn't take charge cards, only cash, and nobody wanted American dollars. Don't even bring them out. We don't even want to. No way.
Yeah.
No banks wanted them. We couldn't find a place other than if you went to a currency exchange on a roll that had all of the currency exchange people, you could go in there and hope that you knew what you were doing to do it, but only euros. So anyways, we're in the shop and I'm pulling all these euros out to buy this product, and then I'm starting to walk away, and the lady says, no, put away. You don't walk out on the street with a wad of euros folding up and putting it in your pocket. She said, pocket.
Yeah.
But yeah, we
took
thing.
cash and
We
we just
took
brought
cash.
it back home.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted it. Nobody.
No, you had to use the ATM card
Yeah.
or have euros.
Yes.
Sort of a big change from years ago where everybody would instantly grab a dollar over their own franc, but not
Yeah.
anymore, especially in the countryside, because they had to deal with the exchange then themselves if they're out in the countryside. And what are they going to do with a bunch of American dollars? So
Is it no good? I mean, is it useless or?
no, it's but nobody accepts it. So is it useless? Because they have to then do the exchange with their currency.
Nothing? Is that-
It is worth, it's on par to the EU almost, euro. Yeah, it's on par. Pardon?
The exchange rate, how much did you lose on it?
I think it was like
Usually it's
5
10%.
or 7%. Yeah.
That's why they don't want to use.
Yeah, if they accept an American dollar from you, they then have to go find a place to get francs in exchange, and then they lose some of that on the exchange. And that's why you're seeing in our own country, smaller shops saying, we're going to do a 3% surcharge if you use that charge card. More and more, we're seeing that in travel in the States. You want to use a charge card, 3%. So
There's places charge 6%.
now for a card, well, they're making a profit on top of covering their cost on that too. But in any event, yeah, that was one thing different. The dollars weren't really wanted. So on the barge, we were able to buy our own wine with a corking fee, although the captain may reassess how he's going to do that next year, because he wants to sell his products too. And he said,
For a
I would
profit.
hope during the trip, you'll find it also that you will buy some of
Yeah.
ours from the boat.
Yeah.
And
And the wine was very reasonable there.
Yeah.
Wow, we were just amazed.
Mhm.
Really good wine for
Mhm.
very
Right.
inexpensive. So
Yep.
we maybe bought a couple of his.
yeah, Yeah. So anyways, that's made it back to the States and finished up June 15th. We were
And
back
I
home.
loved every minute of it. If any of you ever are thinking of doing it, it's so doable with an electric bike. Because you don't have to worry about anything then. I mean, initially, like we said, that we did the first 100 miles with a regular bike. And, I was saying earlier, you'd be like biking along and all of a sudden you're looking and going, oh no, it's a big hill. When you're on the electric bike, it's like, woohoo, who cares? Just push that button and go. So it just took, it made it a lot more fun. Forget what he's even thinking, but for anybody that's not a bike snob, it's the way to go. It really is.
These are not motor scooters. These are Class 1 electric bikes. You have to pedal in order to get them to assist. There's different levels of assist on it, but you have to be pedaling. There's no throttle.
Yeah.
So you still have to pedal the bike.
Yep.
So, all right.
I might support Mary because I bought a electric.
Yes.
If you get older, you might enjoy it.
Yeah.
Really,
Yes.
you might enjoy biking.
Yeah. I can't keep up with this guy anymore, so that's why I got one, but then he got one.
Vince has gone.
Yeah.
Mountains. He's
Yeah.
ridden his bike over the rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A number of times.
Yeah.
So.
He's a little more advanced over most of this.
But on an electric bike, you could take him on.
So, yeah.
What was the total kilometers along the canal?
Our whole trip, I clocked with our Strava about 500 miles for the 2 weeks. And there was only one person who stayed aboard one day and didn't ride.
Because they were going on to another trip.
Yeah.
And so she just thought, I'm going to just kind of take a break
But
today.
most days were 25 to 30 miles, and that stretched out over the whole day. So you really didn't feel that you're really going to be fatigued from cycling. I would say that towards the end of the trip, the warmer the afternoon, 75, 80 degrees, as we all know, trying to be active out in the open sun, 75, 80, you start to feel it around 3 or 4 o'clock.
Mhm.
Yeah. But
So when
anyways,
did you stop?
about 4 o'clock every day.
Mhm. Yeah.
Tried to meet up with the boat. Sometimes the boat. I was fortunate enough. The captain brought me on as part of the crew for a day. What Marcos was doing was he was bringing his car to every port along the canal. Well, he couldn't do that. He had to captain the boat down, and then he would get on an electric bike at the end of the day and try to get back up to his car to come back. Well, that got to be a little wearing. And he was aware I wanted to be out biking on my own and break away from the crew to do some riding. So he said, why don't you take my car in the morning? We'll put the bike on. You drive my car down to the next village, 30, 35 miles down, and then you can work your way back up to the crew and bike back. So I was able to do that one of the mornings.
Mhm.
And that was sort of nice, being able to drive a beautiful Porsche, whatever, on French roads early in the morning.
Yeah.
I was almost wanted to do a detour and say I got
Uh-huh.
lost,
Yeah.
just to get up on the countryside and car tour. Oh my gosh, it was just early in the morning hours, driving with the windows down and the music playing. It's like, holy cow, this is a whole nother tour.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, that's about it.
Anybody have any questions? Sorry, Rich, could be glad to answer them afterwards. Can you give me an idea what kind of money you're gonna spend?
Yeah. There's everything from cycle tours that is like 1,200 euros for the week. That includes your meals, no airfare. You got to come up, and that's what we did. Was we used our credit card points, got one airfare covered, and then bought. Airfare is now running anywhere from $700 to $1,000 out of O'Hare to Europe. That's usually about somewhere about it. The cycle tours. He talked to us in the evening. We're not aware of it because we're not part of that European-Russian war that's on their borders, but it's greatly affected a lot of facets that war has. And one of them, the captain said, was fuel prices easily 30% over last year's what he's pumping this year. 30% increase on fuel. Food cost he said he just couldn't believe the food cost jump, another 25%. So he was going to raise his rates next year. So it's like $1,200 or euros for a week, but that's your meals. That's them sagging, that's providing the bike.
And then what was the difference between the pedal bike and electric?
About $100 difference.
It's worth it.
So, yeah,
We
you know,
had
and
signed
then-
up for electric bike, both my daughter and I, and then because everything was so expensive, blah, blah, blah. And so we just decided while we were there, we didn't care, we're gonna do it. And you know, it was all catered and that was really a splurge for us. We've never, you know, done anything
Yeah,
like
we've never
that.
been on a trip where they actually
Yeah,
make
they
your pet
served you.
food.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that was, wow, that was fabulous. We
Yeah.
definitely, felt good about that. Definitely.
So yeah, cost wise, probably the more expensive was being in Paris, as any of the big international cities. You go to New York City, Chicago, any of the big cities. There's no bargains. Lodging cost in Paris, even on a Airbnb, is running near $200 a night. That's a good price, splitting the cost, but. Yeah, so those kinds of expenses, if you're going to be there and you want to spend some time in Paris, the cost of that will definitely add to it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.